Today we are talking about
the disadvantages of raising the
debt ceiling!
Debt ceiling is basically the debt limit that's assigned by the legislation, which places a maximum on the amount of debt that can be issued by the country's treasury. Basically, to put it in simple terms, it means that debt ceiling is the amount of debt that a country can have. And if the government can't cover its budget duties and the maximum is reached, and there is an approval to get a loan of more money, then it's a lot harder for the country to make commitments financially to other countries, which affects the world's economy.
It has never actually occurred in the U.S. where the debt ceiling was reached and Congress did not raise it long term. However, it has occurred when the debt ceiling was reached and Congress waited 3.5 months to 4.5 months. It happened in 1985, 1995, and in 2002, where Congress waited 3 to 4 months to raise it. And even then, it did not really cause any problems. So we're not really sure what would happen if over long term it was not raised. However, what most likely would happen we would have to prioritize our debts and our spending, and yeah.
In the past, the U.S. has met no problems when they reached the debt ceiling. Those only kept at the same point for a few months, the U.S. economy and all the economies the U.S. are connected to didn't suffer at all. Even though the U.S. spending was reduced, the global trade market continued as normal. Reducing the debt ceiling might actually benefit relations with our trade partners and the countries we borrow money from. So the U.S. would be forced to pay back the trillions of dollars we owe because we would no longer take out loans we wouldn't be able to pay. Enormous amounts of inflation are bound to follow. A collapse would come directly after the massive amount of inflation. This collapse could lead to the U.S. government not being able to pay back loans, and trade would also decrease, hurting other economies.
So what happens to the United States if they decide to stop raising the debt ceiling? That depends entirely on when Congress decides to make that decision. As previously stated, Congress never not raised the debt ceiling, but they have delayed doing so for several months. And there wasn't nationwide panic as some lead you to believe. If the Congress did make the decision, it'd be up to the U.S. Treasury to make the tough and rational choices as to which of America's financial obligations would have to be made first and which programs would have to sustain a budget cut to make those payments happen. If there was more attention being paid to where the currency is going, then the United States will undergo far less severe circumstances than if we waited and then other countries came knocking on our door asking to get paid and bleeding us dry.